Hello to all of the real progressives out there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Want to start with the RP plugs. Please go to realprogressives.org if you want to learn more about us or help out our organization. You can find our Patreon there. All sorts of great content, podcasts, articles, all that stuff. You guys know the drill. Make sure that you're checking out all of the content we put out if you have yet to do so. Obviously, right now, a very big story is the Texas abortion ban. And how the Supreme Court has handled this, and some of the politics that led to the Supreme Court being in the condition that they currently are politically. This is in Slate. What we know and what we don't about how Texas's abortion ban will be enforced. If you donate to a Texas abortion fund from out of state, could you still be sued for $10,000? On September 1st, a new law banning abortion after 6 weeks took effect in Texas. The measure, known as SB 8, will not be enforced by government officials. Instead, it allows anybody to sue any individual who performs, aids, or abets such an abortion for a minimum of $10,000 plus attorney's fees. Republican lawmakers devised the convoluted structure to insulate the law from judicial review, and so far, the gambit has worked. At midnight on Wednesday, the Supreme Court refused to block SB 8 by a 5-4 vote, citing complex and novel procedural questions. The decision effectively overturned Roe v. Wade by allowing Texas to ban abortions before viability, a direct affront to nearly 50 years of precedent. SB 8 has prompted widespread outrage already, but there's also been a great deal of confusion about how exactly it is meant to function. As Chief Justice John Roberts noted in dissent, its scheme is not only unusual, but unprecedented. No state has ever before tried to get around the Constitution by deputizing private parties to carry out unconstitutional restrictions on the state's behalf. In Justice Sonia Sotomayor's words, no one knows exactly how SB 8 will work in practice yet. Below is a list of questions and answers about SB 8, roughly ordered from straightforward to ambiguous to unknowable. I want to drive home, you guys, that because the Democratic Party currently has both houses of Congress and the White House, they could simply pass a law that makes this illegal. Wouldn't be that difficult. And then the Supreme Court would have to find a different way. So I've seen a lot of people online blaming the likes of Bernie or Susan Sarandon, or pick your villain on the left that the liberals like to hand-wring about, and trying to blame them for this result. And I think that's utterly ridiculous, considering the fact that the Democrats could actually do something about this right now, and they're not doing it. Maybe they will, but they're not doing it yet. So it's amazing to me that when the party you support is in power, you still try to deflect and blame others when they refuse to do the things you expect of them. It's amazing the way the liberals can contort themselves to take these kinds of views. I also want to note, you guys, Tim Kaine, who was Hillary's running mate, very establishment type Democrat senator, he supported the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment basically says no federal funds can go to an abortion. So it's not as though the mainstream Democratic Party, who all of these hand-wringers support, is somehow on the side that they think they are. It's insane to me. These liberals think that the Democrats are towing a line that they are not towing. The other example I would give, Joe Biden himself was one of the, he was the chair of the committee that berated and questioned and smeared Anita Hill when she came forward with sexual assault allegations against Clarence Thomas, who obviously was one of the justices to find in support of SB 8. So Joe Biden himself, in service of putting this conservative maniac on the court, Joe Biden squashed sexual assault allegations and berated the woman who was bringing them forward. And yet, who do these liberals blame? They blame fucking Susan Sarandon. It's, you really cannot make this shit up. This is a really terrible story. I am pro-choice through and through. Nobody, by the way, you guys, likes abortions. Nobody's like pro-abortion. Nobody finds it morally satisfying to get an abortion or to support an abortion. We're pro-choice because we think women should have autonomy over their reproductive decisions. And I would also add, this goes further than just a civil issue or like a matter of bodily autonomy and personal decision-making. It goes further than that. There is one thing you must do if you would like to pull a community out of poverty, if you'd like to actually fight poverty in a serious way, there's one step you must take. There are a lot of steps you can take that are fantastic. Implement a good healthcare system, good education, housing, jobs programs, etc. But there's one thing you must do if you want to pull a society out of poverty, and that is empower women. It is to give women autonomy over their own reproductive decisions. That is the first thing any serious person who wants to combat poverty will do. So this issue runs a lot deeper than just the personal rights of it, which are in and of themselves enough, right? No woman should be told what decisions she must make or not make when it comes to these issues. Okay. So I wanted to set that aside. This idea that progressives and leftists are pro-abortion. No, nobody wants to see an abortion happen. Nobody wants to have to get an abortion. Nobody wants a loved one or a friend to have to get an abortion. We support the right to choose for a whole myriad of reasons. And this is, in my view, a pretty outrageous finding from the Supreme Court that these Texas lawmakers have gone so far out of their way to skirt previous judicial precedent and come up with this sort of creative way to ban a lot of abortions. I'm hopeful that this will somehow change. I think there are a number of avenues that could be. I mentioned Congress. It could write a law basically that bans this kind of bill. So we'll see what happens going forward, but it's very worth noting. The other thing I would point out politically, the Democrats rolled the fuck over when Merrick Garland was stopped from his ascent to the Supreme Court by the Republicans' obstruction. And then the Democrats rolled over when the Republicans forced their own justice down our throat. So it's not as though the Democrats have actually fought on this issue that they are all too happy to politicize and utilize during election season, right? Remember when it came down to Bernie and Biden in the primary, and the argument was, well, Bernie can't beat Trump, which flawed argument to start with. But even if you actually accept that just for the sake of argument, what they were trying to say is, he's going to get all these Supreme Court choices. And then what do? They roll over for 9 months under Obama, right? And then they roll over as Republicans shove their justices down our throats. And then they turn around and blame Bernie and Susan Sarandon when a finding like this comes down. It's outrageous. It's insane. It's utterly ridiculous. So I'm hopeful this law will be somehow altered or undone, or this finding rather, this Supreme Court ruling. But it's a result of a very undemocratic institution and very undemocratic processes of putting the authorities in place in this institution. This also applies to the federal judiciary, you guys. Very undemocratic process. And often happening behind closed doors and not receiving a lot of media coverage. But when you stack the bench with conservative or pro-corporate judges, you get certain results. I mean, it's just this is a significant, in my view, flaw in our system, and I don't have a perfect answer for it, but outrageous finding there from the Supreme Court, if you ask me. So here's to hoping it gets undone or somehow altered in a positive way.